All right, welcome to another episode of the Be Extraordinary podcast. This is our internal newsletter version. I'm joined by Mr. Rob Gailey. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, a.k.a. Large Rob, a.k.a. 220 Rob. By the way, it's still the best nickname because you got it because all of a sudden you started making large T-shirts look small.
You remember that conversation we had on the cruise?
Yeah.
That was where it started. I think you and I were in tears laughing.
Yeah. I was like, yo, what size shirt is that?
I'm like, it's a large, man. Look how tight it is. You're like, oh, you're Large Rob now.
So if you ever hear us refer to Large Rob, that's where it comes from. Making large T-shirts look small, man. But, I just want to kind of celebrate your journey. Number one, gosh, it's been 8 years, almost 8 years.
We're going on 9.
Yeah, so 2017, this is kind of your first career job.
100%.
Right? You're in hospitality, had bounced around, you're in the fitness game, you were waiting tables. All of a sudden, you're going to have a kid. Boom, Matt Ekberg's your buddy growing up. You find this place. We knew each other from high school, which is always fun to get into. But why insurance, man? How did this even get started? I remember that beer that we had in Claremont.
Yeah, well, Crooked Spoon, right?
Yeah, the Rusty Spoon.
Rusty Spoon,
Yes.
that's it. Yeah, so I mean, so Matt and I have known each other since 4th grade. And after college, we kind of went our ways in our careers. And I remember, gosh, it was probably 2 or 3 years before I started. I remember Matt mentioned, hey, I'm working for this insurance agency. We're really starting to grow. A position's open. I'd love to talk to you about it. And at the time, I was like, nah, man, insurance. What are you talking about? I don't even know how to spell insurance. So I ended up moving to South Florida, and that was for about 2 years. And when I came back, I'd been at the gym, front desk manager. And I remember I was just at a point in my career there where there was no growth. I wasn't moving anywhere. I was stagnant. I was plateaued. So I had my son Silas already in the process of, Ryan coming along shortly thereafter. But I just realized, I said, to provide for my family, I've got to go up. I've got to be able to provide for my family. And, working at Gold's Gym was great. They treated me well, but I needed that next step forward. And Matt's mom and my mom are very good friends. And I think I had called my mom one day after work, and I was like, hey, I need to start looking for an actual career. I need growth. I need somewhere where I can make more money and provide more value. And I just don't think it's here. And I think 2 days later, saw Matt's name pop up on my phone. I answered it, and he said, hey, man. So my mom told me this story about you looking for another job, a new career. Remember that conversation a few years ago? Well, we've got another opening. So I'd love to, sit down with you, get you in front of Taylor and see what we could do. And it's the story from there.
Yeah, I remember those days well. I mean, 2017, you joined as a pretty good team, humming along personal lines. We're writing a lot of business. It's me, you, Matt, Tori. I'm kind of on the verge of maybe stepping away from the day-to-day, but you get in a role and you start as kind of like a sales assistant. We were trying to figure out before we got on like what we called it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a closing coordinator yet, but you kind of get thrown into the fire, and what that position represented was just everything. Everything that was not necessarily being on the phone with a client selling a new line of business or onboarding a new client. So it was service, it was post-bind underwriting, it was closings, it was rewrites, it was phone calls, whatever it may be, right? So what did that teach you drinking from a fire hose from a team that was producing a lot of volume? It was just purely new business focused, but you were kind of come in as like new to the industry catch-all. If we don't know who's going to take it, Rob, can you help me with this? And you were always like, yes, 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 very consistent, would show up, do the thing, slam on desks. I loved it. It was just like the perfect kind of intensity that like this dude really cares. He's also really intense, and we can have a blast while we're working hard. But what did you learn like in those early years? What was your experience of like, hey, I made this career leap? Was it a little bit like, oh my God, like what was I doing? Did you fall in love with insurance, or kind of what were those early years? What do they represent in your growth?
I think that was a huge turning point for me individually. I had never really had a career. I tried to make a career out of my Gold's Gym situation, but again, just no growth. And when I got here, I saw the opportunity for growth. I saw the opportunity for a lot of different things, from personal development, for myself, and then also developing just as an insurance agent. And obviously too, my team lead, Matt, I got to work with my best friend.
Yeah.
Which him and I, at one point, we were like, man, are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to be able to be friends and, you as my team lead? So there was some hesitation there, but I think between Matt and I, we worked perfectly together. I took the criticism and the critiques and, some of his pointers to heart and used that every day. And then I had Tori, who, when I needed help and Matt wasn't available, Tori was right there. Yeah. So, it helped me in more ways than I realized then. Now I look back at it, I'm like, man, I don't know if I'd be the person I am today if it wasn't for how we started together. And then obviously we look between our four walls and how much we've grown as a company too. So it helped me take a look, not only in my personal life, but my work life, to just say, you know what, I had this idea of what worked, but I didn't really have a full grasp on it. And then when I got here and saw, how we operated as a team, and then Matt, Tori, and I operating as a team and growing as a team, it was awesome.
Yeah, it's almost contagious because just to give perspective, right? You have 3 agents that you're working with that are doing a good amount of volume. And so not only are you processing that business for 3 agents, but you're also doing all of the service for the entire agency while you're also cross-selling, learning to cross-sell. And so I truly mean, I still think to this day, I don't know if there was ever a time or a position that had that much responsibility and volume flowing through one person. And, then you kind of progress and we add some new agents and you have Chris and you have Emmer and you're kind of waiting your turn of saying, hey, is this sales thing for me? Do I want to become a senior agent? What does that look like? And I'm in my own process of development. Of course, this is my perspective on the whole thing. And meanwhile, I just want to pause because you say you see opportunity, but the sacrifice for the opportunity is notable because you're now in Mount Dora where you grew up and that's where the office is and you've lived there ever since. But you're driving at least an hour each way every day, right?
At least. Yeah, I went from...
For 5 years?
5 years, yeah, because I was at Gold's Gym, and that was a 5-minute drive to work. And then, coming here, it was a commute to 441 to 429, down the Turnpike to I-4, and then Sand Lake. Yeah, that drive tested my patience, to say the least.
I will say, though, that was before this whole work from home craze. Yeah. Right? So I don't even think there was discussion for anybody to say, like, hey, is that a thing? I think it was just like, look, the team's in the office, we're in the office, that's the expectation. You're like, okay, cool. And then you just get in this reputation routine. And I think, too, I think it was cool to listen through you at first. I know the personal development thing is like, okay, what is this? And then what does this mean to me? And then I had this hour-long drive, and then it seemed like a couple years in, it's like, okay, maybe I do tune into a podcast or something that is good quality information. And I start to kind of develop these skills on top of my insurance knowledge. And then your number's called, right? Your number's called to step into the agent role and bring me into that moment, man. What was the biggest difference from all the positions you held that were, call them support roles, closing coordinator, sales assistant, whatever the hell we called it back then, service, to, hey, I'm stepping in, I'm going to build a book of business on my own. Like, what was that?
It was, I'll be honest, it was a tough transition. Coming from, an agent partner per se to
there was another name.
Yeah, there's another name, to closing coordinator. It was, my main focus was to try and help the team, which my focus is still to help the team, but I was responsible for Emmer, Chris, Matt, and Tori and getting their new business bound.
4 agents, by the way, by then.
Exactly. Yeah. So, handling their binds, their endorsements, finalizing applications, helping them get closer to the finish line. So then it freed them up to be able to do other things and help more clients. So I was really heavy in a support role. And when I got into senior agent, it was an adjustment because even as a senior agent, I'd look at Tori or Matt or Chris and Emma and be like, hey, do you guys need help with anything? And they're like, no, focus on you. Like, we got this. That was probably the biggest transition.
Break that pattern.
Yeah. I would call a client and I'd quote it up, and then I just would look for an endorsement or a TDoc or something. I'm like, whoa, no, I just need to pick up the phone and call my clients, and that's when we had Sales Machine too. Yes. We'd look up and Sales Machine would have 10, 14 names up there. It's getting close to 5, and it's like, guys, come on, let's get them down. Yeah. That promise before 4 o'clock, we're getting it to them same day.
The Sales Machine was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have this TV that we tilted vertically. Yep. And then we would do a browser that we would line up, and leads would come into a centralized workflow, and it'd be, hey, speed a lead first to get it. Whoever's available is going to pick it down. And yeah, sometimes you'd come in and there'd be none on there. You're like, okay, I wish there was more on there. Sometimes you come in like, I don't know how we're going to get to all these prospects. That was fun days. So when did it click for you? When did you feel like, okay, this is new. I'm aware of this pattern. Now did you have a breakout month that you go, hey, I tiered. I believe that I can do this, versus, okay, this is very new. This is foreign to me.
Yeah, the belief was always there because I had come from a little bit of sales before here. So it was just kind of re-exercising that muscle memory for the most part. I remember when I first started, though, as a senior agent, it took me 3 months to tier. First month was slow. I think I did better my first month than the second month. In my first month, I want to say I did about 18 policies total. I forget the premium, but it was just underneath where we needed for that tier 1. And then month 2, I go into it thinking, oh man, I had a great first month. I'll just build on that. And the second month was more difficult for me than the first was. And I remember Rod called me and he was like, hey, you want to grab lunch? So we went to, Chipotle like everyone does. And we sat down and he just had a conversation. He goes, what's going on? Where do you see the strengths? Where do you see the weaknesses? Where do you see the pros and the cons? And where can we kind of try and meet that in the middle and get you to where we know you can be? So I think that talk with Rod is kind of where I had the experience and I thought I could just apply it to insurance and be fine. But those 2 months, that was tough. I mean, I'll be honest, it was tough on my ego. I came in cocky. I'd done insurance, I'd done sales.
Experience, yeah.
But that seat as a senior agent, that's where, after that talk with Rod, I remember that third month I tiered and I called Rod and I said, hey, I tiered. And he goes, good, let's do it again next month.
Yeah.
And then I think for the rest of the year, I didn't miss a tier.
Yeah. And I think the reason I'm asking is because I think one thing, first of all, I always look for the gift and superpower in someone. You have a great ability to be resilient, persistent, consistent, and just like show up over a long period of time, right? And it's like I look at you and say, dude is going to figure it out. So whether it's 3 months, 3 years, whatever the season is. So you got this progression where you've come from new, broad experience, isolated, worked through challenges, and all of a sudden you're off to the races. And then you go out to Mount Dora, right? Opportunity opens up, kind of a dream opportunity for you because Absolutely. You've been talking about a Lake County office for years. And I know we originally had one and then we centralized in Orlando and, and Emmer goes out and he's able to, his number's called and you guys go out there and essentially build this together and taking on more of a marketing responsibility, right? All of a sudden you go, okay, I'm a senior agent. Maybe we're sharing some leads. And then the different plays are called. We're out in Mount Dora. Now we're kind of knocking on doors. We're developing leads. We're going on calls. And then that progression happens. So it's almost like as we're going through this, every single level of the way, you go, hey, right when I'm ready to master a skill, this new skill is needed, right? Which is a lot of times what growth and development looks like, which sometimes sucks because it challenges what we were talking about this, our safety and significance. We go, oh, can I do this? I was so good at here. I just want to do more of that. So anyway, how was the marketing aspect as far as Mount Dora when you went out there with Emmer to really build this thing? Was it exposure to marketing that you had never done before because it wasn't as much of an ownership over it? Like you kind of knew people did lunch and learns, you go to coffee chats, but what was that experience like and kind of what did you learn from it?
It was fun. I didn't think marketing would be fun at first. I remember Emmer came up to me and he said, "Hey man, I've been offered this position to potentially open up a office in Mount Dora." And obviously, at the time he lived in Leesburg, I'd grown up in Mount Dora. And he said, "I'm going to start marketing, and maybe some days I'll have you come out." And I said, "Hey man, just let me know what days you want me there. I don't care if it's 2 or 3 days out of the week." And he's like, "Well, I'm focused on the marketing. You have a lot of other stuff to do, back at the office. I don't want to tie you down." I said, "No, don't worry about that. Let's just go out there together. I'll go as often as I can. There'll be days where I can't, and we'll figure it out." But the marketing side was fun. It was a muscle I had never exercised before. I had never marketed in the sense of, like you said, lunch and learns or sitting down and having, coffee or doing a happy hour with a realtor or lender, going to networking events like coffee chats. That was so foreign to me. Mm-hmm. And I remember in the beginning, I'd go with Emmer and I wouldn't say much when we'd walk in the office. I'd always tell him like, "All right, I'll walk in behind you. I'll let you do the talking." Yeah. And I had this thing where anytime we went in, I always looked around the office. I'd let Emmer talk and I'd find something in the office and that was my topic.
Yeah.
If it was sports, solid, golden.
Yeah,
I knew I could ramble.
You see an Ohio State Buckeye, you're done.
Exactly, and I remember Emmer and I walked into the mortgage firm in Mount Dora, Mary Rhodes, Kelly Kendrick.
Such a nice person.
Oh, yeah, and then Kim Likely, she was at the desk, and I remember I walked in, the first time I'd ever met her, been in that office with Emmer, and he's talking, and I saw she had a Pittsburgh Steelers cup, and I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, so rivals, and I let Emmer talk for a little bit, and then she looked at me, and I said, I might as well just turn around and walk out. And she looked at me kind of confused. I said, well, when I tell you my football team, you're not going to like me and you're probably not going to want to send us any business. And she goes, oh, gosh, who are you, Cleveland Browns? And I said, no, even worse, Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
And it's funny, that conversation with Kim, I mean, that created not only like a referral partner relationship, but a friendship.
Yeah.
I mean, I call Kim to talk about a file. We'll talk football for 20 minutes before we ever actually talk business and talk, about the file I was really calling about. So that's the part of marketing that I liked because we got to meet new people. We got to go into new offices and it was a new conversation every time. And the more I went in with Emmer, the more I got more comfortable. And then Emmer's like, you lead, you walk in first and you start the conversation. And then sometimes he'd be like, I'm going to stay in the car. You go in there and come back out and we'll talk about it. So I owe a lot to Emmer because he really got me out of that sense of being too comfortable. I looked at it like, well, he knows what he's doing. I'll piggyback off him. And he wanted, I owe a lot to him because he forced me to get uncomfortable and forced me to grow in that sense. And I don't think where I'm at now with marketing, I don't think I'd be there without Emmer.
Yeah. And that's a cool leadership nugget. And that's cool that you give the props, but it's like, we need both, right? We need to see an example. We need to be kind of the Robin to the Batman for a little bit. And then at some point though, Batman's not there, right? We need to step into this identity and say, hey, I got to be forced to do this myself and step into this new identity. And I do think you go back to the humor of the football. That to me is a sign of confidence to where, I'm going to make a joke or I'm comfortable here. And then boom, we can build rapport and we have a connection. I'm no longer thinking about I need to say the right things at the right time, how I say it. Now I'm just looking to make a connection, and I'm looking for things to make a connection. So there was like this transition that it sounds like that happened. They go, okay, I'm confident. I remember walking to offices is tough. I think it's one thing, it's almost like Rod always says this, but you never understand if you've never done it, the value of one lead, right? And I remember sitting outside of mortgages offices and wanting to puke because walking in cold.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, this is crazy how nervous I am. And it was such a reflective point, and I would always get nervous, and then I would always go in, almost like you take it back to sports. It's like you've played the game 100 times, but you still get the butterflies, and then you have to reframe those butterflies. And are you in a place now that you've reframed those butterflies with marketing? Bring me into the space of somebody that I'm looking at your numbers, right? I've seen the true referral numbers explode. They're up more than double since Q1 to Q3, right? I've seen the activity. I've seen the comfort level. So it seems like, hey, I start with a bias of, hey, I'm a service support guy. Now I got to learn to sell. And then I get into the role and like, okay, I finally got this sales thing. I'm a sales guy now, but now I got to learn to market. Has the shift come to, hey, I'm a marketing guy and now I got to sell? Or is that still a kind of something you play with? Because I have a follow-up question after that transition.
So this is how I look at it now. I was probably a little bit more transactional when the marketing started. Mm-hmm. You go in immediately, ask for business. And Rod's mentioned this before. Walk in the first time, don't ask for a referral. Just go in there, leave the business card, make a short conversation, or, hey, if they want to continue talking, stay there as long as they want, but don't be there too long. The aha moment for me, and I remember talking about transactional and relational, back in the day, we used to have that sign right as you walked in, and it said, we're more about the relationship rather than the transaction, or focused on the relationship more so than the transaction. And that's how I always treated the clients. And then my aha moment was, man, this isn't just for the clients. This is also for marketing. Let's make this more relationship based. Let's make friendships. Let's make relationships with people where we can call and we don't have to talk about business right away. We can talk about football. We can talk about our kids. We can talk about what we did this weekend. And that's how I operate now. I'll call and say my mortgage lender, they know why I'm calling and they know the file I'm calling about. But hey, how's it going? John, how was your weekend? Cool, man. Did you catch any football? Did you catch any basketball games? Yeah. How's the family doing? Awesome. And maybe that's 5, maybe that's 10 minutes, however, and then get to the business. So that's where I've kind of, when I realized it into now, I'm more focused on building relationships with my clients and my referral partners and the people that I work with. Obviously, we all need to help each other with our businesses. That comes just automatically. That comes with the business. So that was huge for me. I saw how Emmer went in there, and then Matt and Tori and Chris, and then you and Brett and Rod. I mean, it's kind of like, and I remember you always saying this. We learn a lot through osmosis. Maybe we're not directly in it, but we're absorbing the information that we hear and the things that we see, and then we can turn around and apply that to our business. So that's where I'm at with it. I want to build a friendship. Obviously, we know we have business to take care of, but most importantly, every time we call, I want us to be able to talk about one thing other than business.
That's a great discipline, because when I was more heavy in that particular role, my thought and what I would tell people is I want to be the type of person that when I call, people want to pick up. And there is a level of personalization. I would try to be concise when I could be concise. I would try to be personal when I could be personal. Obviously, some of these are hard conversations, but you're fair, you're consistent, and when Rob Gailey hits my line, I know he's going to respect my time, he's going to be friendly, and we're maybe going to have a couple laughs. And it sounds like you've done that, right? It's like, hey, when I call Kim, whatever it is, it's like, yeah, it's my buddy Rob. And I think by forging those friendships allows you to progress business as well for both people. And I think that's a magic spot to be. I remember Matt and I talking about Eckberg back in the day, where we were in this transition point of developing better relationships with referral sources. And I related it to recruiting. It's like, we want to get in these recruits' family rooms, right? When a high-level college coach goes to see a qualified recruit, they're going to meet their family at their house in their family room. It's very intimate. It's on purpose. There's a relationship being forged. And I remember that theme showing up, and that's what it reminds me of. Because if you can get in their family room and you can have a real relationship, you can ask tough questions. You can ask for contact information. You can ask to help each other in a very synergistic way, and I think that's a great spot to be in. So, well, good. Kudos to you, man. Volume, true referrals from the first quarter. And I said this before we got on camera, right? You go Q1, pretty solid. You're getting going in Mount Dora. And then Q2, okay, boom, Q3, you've exploded, right? And obviously you guys had a transition of Emmer heading to a new market and opportunities that have come from that. It's also come from just increased activity, and it's created a significant amount of volume. Just total opportunities for you in Q1, 138. Total opportunities in Q3 so far, with still a week to play in July, 335, right? That's a lot of at-bats. So, and you've gone from being somewhere it's okay, yeah, have an average year, to all of a sudden, no, you're in the top 3, 4 of every category that you could look at, right? Whether it's referrals, whether it's total opportunities, whether it's a policy count, and now autos. So I want to bring it into that. It's like, okay, now we've made the transition. Now we got the volume, right? You're seeing the policy count go up. Last couple of months, you're 40 plus. Now all of a sudden, I got to move this auto needle. So now you're in this game where it's like, okay, now I figured out this marketing thing, and now I got to figure out how I handle the volume but still have really quality volume. So I'm preparing for this interview, and I'm having these conversations with you now, and I'm just thinking about this is what it looks like to develop. Like, right? You're stacking skill on skill on skill on skill until you're a master, and all of a sudden, last month, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, you put up 10, right? 10 autos, and what are you doing different? What's feeling good to where, what's the challenge that, hey, I don't know if I can get these autos, and maybe I have a limiting belief of why I can't get these autos. So all of a sudden I got to figure out how to get these autos. Now I'm doing this a little bit different. What's changed?
It was definitely a limiting belief on my end. I was, and continue to be, but I was at a point where I had so many referrals, so much business to take care of. I was getting lost in the shuffle of it all. I'm like, man, how am I gonna take care of everyone? And my priority was taking care of everyone before myself, making sure that, my lenders, my realtors, my clients, if it's, the 75 quotes that I've done, or the 100 or the 50, I was so focused on them. And then I remember Eric came to Mount Dora and we had a one-on-one and we talked, and he goes, he was asking me a similar question to what you asked. And he goes, well, what's going on? And I answered, and he goes, well, let's try this. Cause I told him, I said, man, I'm so bogged down with the homes. I can't find the time to pull away, because the moment I get off of one phone call, I have an appointment in 10 minutes, or the moment I get off an appointment, I get 2 phone calls, and I'm getting pulled in so many directions. I remember Eric saying, can I ask you to just be a little bit more selfish? And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, I want you to be a little bit more selfish for you. You're so focused on taking care of everyone. And I would say that goes back to my agent partner, my closing coordinator and service days. Yep. In the back of my head, that's where I started. So I always want to focus on taking care of everyone else more so than myself. Yep. And
thinking that's how I support the team.
Exactly. And supporting the team and supporting everyone. And Eric said, just be more selfish. Focus on what you need to do. And then take care of everyone. Do it in a timely manner. I'm not saying completely blow people off and not give them the attention or time that they deserve, but make sure that you're having the right conversations at the right time. And if the opportunity is there, take care of that opportunity and then move on to the next one. So, okay, Eric, sure, I'll give it a try. And then I tried it, and I got 2 autos that week. And then
when you say try it, what does that look like?
I got the auto opportunity. And instead of saying, okay, well, I've got these appointments coming up, or I know I've got X, Y, and Z I need to get to, I'll get to that auto later. And then 2 or 3 days would go by and I never got to the auto. Yeah. So instead, if I'm shopping a home and auto for a client, what I'll do is I'll do the auto first. I'll do the auto first, and then I'll call the client back. Be like, hey, this is where I've got the auto. I think it's a solid price. I think you told me you're paying $130. I've got $110 right here a month. I think this is a home run option for you. Get that commitment. Because that's another thing. I took something from Eric and Matt Ekberg. And Matt Ekberg used to say it all the time, and we were in a meeting probably about a month or 2 ago, and he said it again. He goes, if you give everyone what they want, which is the home in this sense, why would they come back for the auto? You already gave them what they wanted. Yeah. Now to get that other line of business is going to be twice as hard. Yeah. So I heard that, and it was just a re-edification, or just another like aha moment. Like, man, I've been listening to this guy for 8 years, my whole life, but 8 years in our careers. He's right. He was right then and he's right now. And then hearing Eric asking to be a little bit more selfish, I just kind of combined the two, which I think I had a better handle on earlier in my career when I didn't have as many true referrals or as much of a workload. And I got away from that. And I just focused on helping others, which I still want to help everyone else. But at the same time, it took away from other areas.
Yeah. Dude, that's so good. Like, I love that you went into detail about that. And by the way, I'm just thinking about anybody that has kids. You don't have to have kids to understand this. But if your kid sits down for dinner and they want dessert and you give them the dessert first, is there any chance that they're going to eat the turkey and the avocado?
Not a chance.
There's zero chance. Yeah. But if you do hold back the cake and you say, hey, if you eat enough of your XYZ, we'll give you the cake. Mm-hmm. They usually do.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So,
absolutely.
And we think it has to be more complex than that. But that's kind of how we're wired as humans, and that's how we're raised. So as sales professionals navigating that human behavior, I have to figure out how I play with that. And I love how you've kind of found a little bit of a sweet spot. I would just ask you to just abuse that kick that is working right now, right? What is the Bruce Lee? It's like, I don't fear the man that has done 10,000 different kicks. They've done the one kick 10,000 times.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just about finding that one kick, and it's no different than that. And all of a sudden you look at your numbers and you go, okay, by the way, I looked at your numbers, 3/4 of the way of the month, still a week to play. You're at, 31 policy count and 6 or something like that with autos.
Last month?
This month.
This month, yeah. I'm at 31 or 32 with 6 autos, which on the last day of June, I was at, I think it was like 45 policies, but 3 autos. And then
you just went, woof.
On the last day, I put up 7. I got to 10.
Okay, see, that's a pausing moment, is to say, if you put up 7 on the last day, that would indicate to me that it's possible, right? And you may go, okay, well, not every day looks like that. I got yes, but it's still, from a capacity standpoint, it's possible, right? Mm-hmm. So if I combine 7 autos, you say there's give or take 20 to 22 business days in a month. Okay, great. Now you're looking at a big number, right? And you say, oh, great. Well, you're not going to, okay, we'll say 5. Let's say 5 autos a day, right? Like, so there's this ceiling for all of us that if you can do what you're doing now and you can find the kick and continue to kick it, you can break through barriers of what you perceive your capacity to be.
Oh yeah. I mean, looking back at last month and even in this month, again, taking what Eric and Matt said and just making it more of a priority. Right now, we've got the rest of this week and all of next week, except Friday is working days. I'm already at 6 autos.
Yes.
Because, and again, last month I was at 3 on the last day.
Yeah.
So now it's nice to see. You know, I've still
gravy
got,
now.
Exactly. I've got time to play, and I'm more ahead in July at this point in time than I was in June.
And I remember talking to Eric when we were talking about autos and comp, and you know, I watched the numbers, and I think it's cool to know, because you're talking about in the essence of being selfish, the difference between you selling 10 or 15 autos versus 5 or 6 is thousands of dollars, right?
Oh, yeah.
So once you reverse engineer and you go, well, we got to put the autos first. It's like there's this book about business profit first or whatever. It's the mentality of paying yourself first. We've heard that, right? In finance, well, when I get paid, I got to pay myself first before I go out and spend all my money, right? It's the same thing in a production role where you're just now saying, no, I got to prioritize autos first. That doesn't mean it's binary. I'm still going to take care of my sources. I'm still going to do the home, but the sequence and the order in which I do it is going to dictate the outcome that I get, and that's what's magical. So, man, I get a lot of juice from talking to you because I didn't expect it to go here and get this tactical, but I think it's fun because if you're a new producer, you're a seasoned producer, I think in a production role for me, you can get into lulls where you go, you know what, for some reason, I'm a 30 and 5 guy right now. I'm a 40, 50,000 in premium guy right now. I just don't know. I just can't get out of my way. In relationship management, hey, I'm writing 6 or 7. I see these other people doing more. I just don't understand how I could possibly do more. And so I think you're closer than you think. It might be just prioritizing and having a little bit of a different conversation differently every single time.
Oh, yeah. And that same day, Eric and I had that talk, and he was asking me to be a little bit more selfish. I remember he had stayed the whole day at our office, and he had listened to multiple phone calls. And when we were talking, he goes, hey, one other thing I noticed, he's like, you're bringing up auto on that last call. I hear you go through application questions. Is that the first time you brought up the auto? Well, I didn't have the contact information, and the first time I spoke was really, rushed and and this and that. And he said, just bring it up sooner. He goes, just maybe it's not on the first call. He's like, definitely do it on the first call. That's what I'd like you to do. He goes, and that'll help. But don't wait until that last call. Because again, going back to what even Matt said, you've given them what they wanted. So now you bring up auto. Okay, maybe they call you in 2, 3, 4 months. Maybe they call you next year. But if you would have asked the question sooner, you could have gotten it now.
Well, and if you wait to bring it up, they're not as far down the sales process, because by the time you bring it up, now it's like, okay, I just heard about this, and now I have to buy. Well, my mind doesn't work that way. I need time to filter this. I need time to feel like it's my decision. Right? Like, that's just how we work. So the earlier you can bring it up, the more it gives the prospect time to kind of qualify themselves further down the sales process. And that's no different regardless of what you're selling, which is great. Hey, I have a kind of a tough question, and let me know. What do you believe now? We just went through this whole journey, and it doesn't have to be a perfect canned answer. Could be from the start of your professional career. Could be the start of it when you became a senior agent. Could be when you started at Mount Dora. What do you believe now about production, being in a production role, that you didn't before?
I'll say now my mindset. Before, you made this comment a little bit ago, I was a 30 and 5 guy. It was, the bare minimum was okay with me. Mm-hmm. I just knew 30 and 5 is what I'd get. I get it. Like you said, being consistent. I remember our first summit, the theme was superheroes. Mm-hmm. And you guys came up with the pictures and our superhero names. It was Mr. Consistent for me. Mm-hmm. That's what you and Brett and Rod had put together. And it's funny, that was my first year. And now, almost 9 years in, it's still a topic for me. And that's just how I've always been. But I think I settled. I knew if I could get the bare minimum, that was going to pay the bills. It was going to do what I needed. Now, after just months of increased volume and more conversations with clients and referral partners, with Eric, with Matt, with you guys, with everybody that we work with, now I look at it as, okay, why did I feel like it was okay to settle? For personal development, you always want to become better. And I was more focused on that for me as an individual, and I didn't really apply it to my everyday work life. So I think personally developing as an individual and in my career, now I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I hit 30 and 5. Let's keep going. Why would I just want 30 and 5? Let's go for 40 and 10. Let's go for 45 and 15. I think so far this year, the most policies I've put up was 53 or 54 total policies. I want to get 60. I want to get 70. I would love to have 80 on the board. That's my goal is to get 80 total units. Obviously having hopefully 15 or 20 of those being auto. But that's a long-winded way of saying is I settled for 30 and 5 and I knew I could get that consistently. And now I'm at a point to where, no man, the sky's the limit. Don't second or third at bare minimum. Yeah. If you get first, you better be pissed off.
Yeah. And it's amazing how the mind works when you make that decision, you have that conviction where you go, well, how would I do it? Well, that's a good question. I'm so glad you asked, Rob. You would bring up the auto first. You would, whatever, right? You start to figure out the tactics based around what you're going to settle for, what's going to be your standard, right? And you've just reset your standard. And I appreciate the honesty. I think we can all relate in production role, especially in the tiering. You go, oh, God, I can relax. I tiered this month, right? Rather than being the competitive say, well, how do I tier within, Rod always says, how do I tier within the first 2 weeks so everything else is gravy, and at first you think he's crazy. And then you go, well, when you do it long enough and you've been as frustrated enough and you see the difference between this paycheck and that paycheck and it's only 5 autos, this is crazy. Like, I got to figure this out. And I just give you mad props for doing it, man. I think, too, go ahead, speak to that.
Well, I was going to say just Crystal and I had a conversation yesterday, and we've said it more this month than we have in the past. And I think it's cool because we're feeding off of each other. But yesterday, she got her 7th auto, which, by the way, she got her 8th auto today.
Let's go, Crystal.
She's crushing it. And I got my 6th auto yesterday. And Crystal looked at me and she goes, so second or third tier? And I said, well, we just got first tier. What are you talking about? She's like, I know, second or third tier. Which one are we hitting? Yeah. She goes, I'm going for third. So you're coming on to third with me. I said, all right, well, cool. Well, I guess we're going second or third tier. Let's get it. I was like, let's see who gets third first.
Wow. I love that you guys are feeding off each other. And now it's like you mentioned, now the standard just, this is what we expect here. And I love that that's having success. Because if you look at her numbers, you see the same trends. It's very similar. You go, okay, I didn't have the volume. Now I have the volume. I'm getting the policy count, but I'm not getting the auto. And then boom, all of a sudden, I'm getting the auto. And that's where we look at sustainable, profitable, attainable, right? We talk about the way we design the comp plan. 80 units sounds great, but that's not the top tier. It's just quality volume, right? It's just getting enough quality volume, not volume for volume's sake. And so that's the game and the framework. And regardless of what your comp plan is, regardless of what you're selling, understanding the game and how you're going to play it, and then you go play it with it focused on that lens. So, more than anything else, man, I love having you here. By the way, if you want to stay and work in Orlando, it'd be great. But it's just great. I can't believe it's been 8 years, 9 years.
It's crazy.
It's just in a blink, and all of a sudden it's a decade. And I'm just super proud to be your teammate. It's also fills me up to see you the way you started and the way you are now, and to think about and pinch ourselves and say, man, what does this look like in 5 years? I got all these new standards. I got all these new skills. What does it look like if I extrapolated this over 5 to 10 years? What does my income look like? What does my life look like? What does my skill set look like? And so I just want to give you credit for somebody that when we say personal development, we talk about that. You epitomize that. You may not think you do, right? Because of whatever perception of personal development is, but skill development, you're a student in that craft, and you're participating in your own personal growth at the highest level I've ever seen you since I've known you.
Yeah, Matt and I had a conversation. I forget. We were just talking about something completely unrelated to work, and then we started talking about work. And he made a comment. He was like, well, this is probably what the old Rob would do. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's definitely something the old Rob would do. But that Rob's gone. I was like, I said, we've known, Matt and I are in the sense of like, we've known each other since 4th grade. We played basketball, we played football, ran a little bit of track and field together. And then just always kept in contact after we graduated. So we had a conversation, and I said to him, I said, hey, man, not to sound cocky, but I'm not the same person I was when we were younger. I'm not even the same person I was 8 years ago when I first started. I was like, my mindset, that my shift in focus, just where I'm at as a person now is a night and day difference from what I was then. Man. And it was funny. We just kind of didn't say anything for like 5 seconds. Then he goes, yeah, you're right. He goes, yeah. And it was cool to hear that from him. Someone who, I work with, was my team lead. Yeah, he's in St. Pete now, but he's seen me longer than anyone. Yeah. You know
why he believed you? Because you believed it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's influence.
And it's thanks to him and thanks to myself. I'm not going to, take too much credit away from myself. It takes the person to make that decision.
It's staying power too.
Exactly. You got to, and you just, as long as you have the right person leading you, man, you can go anywhere.
Well, kudos for the staying power. The consistency, I still think it's a superpower, but now it's just a consistency on second and third tier.
Yep.
Which is a more fun superpower, but again, I just get credit to just continue to show up, because that's another lesson for me. Regardless of whoever's listening to this, where you are in your journey, I think about this a lot. We all have trouble benchmarking our own progress. I mean, I do, right? You know, some days you go, yeah, I think and then some days like, God, I don't know if I'm getting any better. It feels like it's slow. It's not happening quick enough, whatever it is. And then you go, okay, but over an 8-year period of time, I don't recognize the guy, right? So, okay, then I just got to stay. I just got to do this. I just got to keep at this. And if I can keep at this, there's going to be bumps and bruises and highs and lows. But if I can just kind of stay iterating up and to the right, I'm going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And you're having that kind of success right now. So I'm super happy for you, dude. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for joining. I can't believe we've never been in here and done this before.
I know. First time.
I truly think this is one of my favorite. I think you guys are going to get a ton from it. So thanks, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
All right, man.